Hello, you're watching Joy News, and this is News Today with me, Kemini Nyamani Amano. Coming up, taxi drivers protest a joint exercise by some MMDAs and the MTTD to clamp down on drivers without endorsement and no affiliation with any lorry station. Security beefed up in Diaso, a town in the Dunkwa Onofin district of the Central Region, following bloody clashes between two royal families, leaving at least one person dead. Also ahead, the U.S. government has begun a partial shutdown after the two houses of Congress failed to agree a budget. Detail over the next 60 minutes. Just stay. Right now, in our first story, security has been beefed up in Diaso, a town in the Dunkwa Onofin district of the Central Region, following bloody clashes between two royal families on Monday. Now, according to Dunkwa Onofin District Police Commander Superintendent Dela Jansi, one person identified as JT died in the riot. He said several people were also left with seething injuries. Both factions, Asuna and Akona, are said to have fired gunshots at each other. We'll bring you details of those stories pretty shortly. Let's move on to some other stories where taxi drivers earlier today gathered in front of our studios here in Accra, protesting a joint exercise by some MMDAs and the MTTD over the non-affiliation with lorry stations here in the capital city, and the fact that some of them have no endorsements from the particular MMDAs from which they are supposed to belong to. Some of them spoke to Joy News. Let's take a listen.
Radio station for them go a hanuman mo wa Ghana hanuman they yamumwa cover top boy and in for na no mo di taxi drivers wa hanuman ya ne nyo mama e mistake mama endorsement ya wo e license ne bibia e ja dem bio na some tete fa ho de so.
But are taxi drivers obliged to belong to any lorry station? We'll find out pretty shortly. Senor Jabin is a labor consultant. He's joined us over the telephone. Hello, Senor.
Hello.
Are taxi drivers obliged to belong to any lorry station at all?
Well, if this discussion is held under the context of freedom of association, and these lorry stations are actually unions, then the law does not require that they are forced to join any association. And if you look at Article 21, 1E of the 1992 Constitution, and if you permit me, I can read, all persons shall have the right to, then you go to the freedom of association, which shall include freedom to form or join trade unions or other associations, national and international, for the protection of their interests. Now, when you come under the labor law itself, which normally these unions are registered under freedom of association in section 79(1), it also says that every worker has the right to form or join a trade union of his or her choice for the promotion and protection of the workers' economic and social interests. Now, the right to form or to join also constitutes the right not to join. And therefore, under these circumstances, I do not think that anyone shall be right to require or force these drivers to join unions. If anything at all, they would have to be registered under other municipal laws and not necessarily under these administrative directives to forcibly join a union before they are recognized.
On the back of this, what do you make of what is happening now? Some MMDAs and, you know, the MTTD are clamping down on drivers who not only have endorsements, but do not have any lorry station affiliations.
And that's what I explained. I think that a lot more consultation must go into this. Are the drivers being clamped down upon because they are not registered under the municipal laws, and that is the MMDA, or that they are not associated with any drivers union? Now, if it is because of non-association with a drivers union, then clearly, in my humble opinion, that might be, or that might constitute forcing them to join unions, which is in breach of the law, as I've said. But if it is because they are required to register under the municipal authority and be recognized, then that may be a better administrative approach than to force them to join this association and be recognized.
I see. Now, that is not the only problem these angry taxi drivers have. The other problem is the fact that if you belong to an MMDA and say you belong to SHI, you cannot come and then run activities here in Accra, say AMA. What sort of challenge do you think this could pose for labor, in this case, the taxi drivers?
Well, I think that employers or organizations and the government at that or the municipal authorities have the right to undertake, plan, and promote specific administrative policies that brings decorum and order within the operations, general operations, and under these circumstances, transport. And I think that for international standards in managing transport, I know that for transport owners or drivers, like taxi drivers and so on, bus drivers, they act and are allowed to work or operate within geographical precincts so that they can be regulated as such. Otherwise, then there is a lot of chaos where you cannot track a particular driver who has infringed on a law or regulations because he does something wrong in this geographical area, and then he runs to another geographical area and goes to operate. So I think that it is fair if the municipal authorities are saying that work within a particular geographic area. But, however, I think that this is a negotiable issue. The unions, the transport unions, can sit with the municipal authorities and try to, for example, widen the geographic areas that have been proposed currently. And I think that that would be a better process forward to negotiate some of these geographic areas rather than scrapping it totally. Now, I think that the municipal authorities are well within their rights and also administrative processes to be able to put these geographic barriers in place.
Necessarily make it feasible.
Come again?
I'm saying it may be fair, but doesn't necessarily make it feasible.
Oh, it is feasible. It is feasible. Some of these processes that are being introduced are not being introduced out of context. Indeed, I believe following information on some of these processes, I know that it is a general and well accepted practice across the world that transport owners and operators would act and work within a particular geographic precinct. What we need to do is to widely consult and make sure that all the stakeholders are on a common platform of understanding so that implementation becomes easy. And that is where normally we have challenges because perhaps consultations are not deep enough to be able to bring everybody and all the stakeholders onto the common
Senya, is it too late? Quickly, is it too late to have such consultations now?
No, it's not too late at all. Indeed, it's happening, and because of these agitations, it's an indication of that consultations must have been limited, and this is an early warning sign for the authorities to call all the stakeholders back to the negotiation table and talk through some of these processes, and then redesign, if possible, the various processes as the consultations that will be held. So I think that the time is now for these consultations to be deepened.
Thank you very much, Senya. Senya Jabe is a labor consultant. He's joined us with his thoughts on the issue of taxi drivers versus the MMDAs and MTTD. Let's go to the central region where security has been beefed up in Diaso, a town in the Dunkwa-Onofin district of the central region, following some bloody clashes between two royal families on Monday. According to the Dunkwa-Onofin Police Command, Superintendent Dela Jansi, one person identified as JT died in the riots, and he said several people sustained several degrees of injuries, and both factions, the Asuna and Akuna, are said to have fired gunshots at each other. They clashed over who has the right to install a new chief in India. So joining us by telephone for an update is Joy News Central Regional Correspondent Richard Kojo-Nyako. Hello, Richard.
Hello.
What's the latest on the situation?
Well, the situation is relatively calm now. There were attempts by one of the factions to burn down the palace yesterday night, and it carried to this morning. But the presence of the police has raised just toward action, and so the police have come here in their numbers, and I can count up to about 50 policemen who are manning the police and other vantage points in the Diaso area. And the relationship between these two royal family dates back to about 70 years, and this issue has lingered on for a very long time. There have been some court cases where one of the factions won and was given the right to go on with the installation process. But the police secured that injunction and some signals, some president's signals that there might be some confrontation. But they appealed to the other faction to hold on with the installation process, but they did not listen. And so this was what happened after.
I see. What can you tell us about the injured persons?
Well, currently there are 4 people who are injured, and they are at the beginning government hospital. But one died. Yesterday, we were told that 2 of them died. We were told this morning that miraculously one found back to life, and so it's one person who is dead now.
How about measures put in place so that this does not occur again, especially with regards to installing a new chief?
The onus lies on the Central Regional House of Chiefs, because I'm told that the matter has been put before them, and the hearing of the case will be within this month, and so they will have to sit on the case and ensure that sanity prevails. But the Central Regional Police Command has sent some service commanders to the place right now to ensure that security is tight and everything is okay. It is left for the Parliament, the intra-Parliament, to also come into the case and clear certain doubts that have been raised, because we were also told that one of the factions, the Asona or the Ahine royal clan, decided to pay homage to the Techiman chief, and basically they were not going to pay homage to the Paramount, even though they are on the Judicial land. And so this also raised some temper. And so the Paramount.
Richard, I'm totally grateful for this update. We'll get back to you if there are any fresh updates. You're watching News Today, and Richard Kojo-Nyako joined us from the Central Region with an update on the Diaso situation. But let's quickly move on to some other stories. And effective teaching and learning needs a sound environment, but not for pupils at Sechikron Presby Primary School. The poor state of the school's roof means it gets wet anytime it rains.
This is the Sechikron Presby Primary School. in the Nsawam Adwajiri municipality of the Eastern region. It is the only public school in the town. Constructed over 60 years ago, the school has never been renovated. As a result, cracks have developed in parts of the building. The roof leaks and the classroom often gets wet, and the children try to avoid getting soaked, losing concentration for lessons. Besides this, the school also does not have windows and doors, making it easy for miscreants to use the classroom for antisocial activities. Some even sleep there. Off camera, the children spoke about the things they find when they come to school the next day, such as used condoms. But there are other concerns. Although the pupils are taught ICT, they have never set eyes on a computer mouse before, let alone a monitor and system unit. They have to imagine whatever is taught them. Mark Amakodompre is the municipal chief executive of Nsawam Adwajiri.
Yeah, me per se Oba report to me immediately. Go to Sechikrom School Hall. Apparently, there's a problem that had not been brought to my notice. It is with regards to one of the classrooms. The roofing is so bad, and when it rains, the children just have to go home. It is even worse than school under trees. Okay, yeah. So we need to, solve the problem. Just go and do the assessment. The LA school over there. Look for where the problem is. I'll call the education director once again to give me specifics. So when you get back, I can give them to you. You go to the school, look for the trouble, assess, budget. Let's make sure we fix the problem by next week, okay? Yes, sir. Okay then. All right. Bye-bye. You know what? Give me 2 weeks. Come back. I'll take you over there.
The news team will do a follow-up on the situation to see if the promise is kept.
Now, the Geological Survey Department, after its establishment in 1913, has been monitoring seismic activities, including the possibility of earthquakes, landslides, or volcanoes in the country. The contribution of the department to economic development over its 100 years of existence cannot be underestimated, as they are responsible for the discovery of virtually all the mineral deposits being mined in the country, apart from the Obuasi mine. With me in the studio is Director of Geological Survey Department, John A.J. Dodu. Many thanks for joining us on News Today.
Thank you, madam.
But what exactly you do? 100 years of your existence, and I feel I've not really known the Geological Survey Department. What do you do?
Definitely, you have said it all. The department was set up in 1913 by the British Colonial Administration, and in 1962 was given another new mandate to revive our mandate and basically to map geologically the rock layers in the country. When we say mapping,
I'm also interested in the fact that you monitor seismic activities with regards to earthquakes and landslides. Sure. Growing up, with a little geography I did, I was told that my country, Ghana, seems to be in a very, touchy area when it comes to, seismic activities. Could you elaborate on that?
Yes. Yes, we also, as part of our mandate, monitor seismic. When I say seismic, it is sum total. It can be volcanoes, it can be landslides, it can be earthquakes. And that is the mother of all. That is seismic, by seismic movements. So yes, we monitor, and it will interest you to know that the first earthquake was recorded in 1636 in Axim, and in fact, it caused a lot of havoc. So earthquakes we have been living with earthquakes for years. And therefore, it is the mandate. The department was given another mandate to look at all these things in order to mitigate the effects of seismic activities in the country.
Are we expecting one anytime soon?
It is difficult to say. So far, modern technologies have not been able to prompt us when and where it will happen.
You can't even predict?
No, you cannot. But we can, as a result of many happenings, we can warn that, well, here is an earthquake-prone area, and these are the factors, certain things you have to put in place in order to avert a major disaster if it has to come. And it's also very important that with the data, we'll be able to have an input as to the National Building Code, or the formulation of the National Building Code, because without that, it will be very difficult to know the strength of buildings.
So what's been your input over the 100 years into National Building Codes? Have you had any input at all?
Yes, we have input, because no one builds any dam, strong bridge, a major structure without approaching the geological survey for earthquake data or seismic data, and we provide.
I see.
Yes.
So as a private developer, I want to put up a skyscraper. Do I have to come to the department to educate me or give me information as to whether I see?
Because
how often do you get that?
Else you will not have the permit from the EPA. You'll be directed to the department. We shall do a foundation investigation for you, and of course, from experience, from ages, we'll be able to ascertain the stability of your area.
What happens if someone does not go through the department? Yes, still is given a license, and you find out what happens.
Well, I hope that it will not happen this time, because you are supposed to get a certificate from the EPA and other relevant bodies, and they will make sure that we approach us at least for some certain basic requirements.
What I'm asking is, do you bind on, say, individual property developers, so that if you do not get to the survey department, the geological survey department, then you could, some sanctions perhaps?
Yes, for now, as a civil service organization, we cannot sanction, but plans are far underway for the ministry through Parliament, through our minister, to upgrade us. And then when we receive this semi-autonomous status, of course, then we'll be able to enforce.
You also engage in mineral mapping. What's that?
Basically, minerals are in rocks. And basically, we map the rocks. When I say mapping, how the rocks are laid. We don't put the rocks there. The rocks are being formed. But we have to know the position, what is contained in the rock, and the 238,000 square kilometers of the territory of this country. And this is actually what, so we move like scavengers with our hammer, with our this, and chipping parts of the rocks and analyzing them and knowing the content. And if the rock contains a lot of mineral, then it becomes an ore body. It's a body which contains a certain amount of ore. Then we say either gold ore body, manganese ore body, or we have of course, diamonds and all those things. So that has been our function, and this is the way we operate. And with that, we'll be able to put it on a map, like you see the geological map of the country.
Which of our minerals are we do we seem to, or are seemingly extinct?
Well, we cannot say that they are extinct or not. Of course, it depends on research.
They seem to be extinct. That's what I mean. Not that really, or in danger to be extinct. Let's put it that way. Which of our minerals?
You see, for scientists, we always think of positive. It is your ability to research more. If you've not been able to map out everything, you cannot say that this one is an abundance or extinct. The motive or the idea is that you have to do more research.
Do we still have bauxite?
Yes, we have bauxite, Kibi. Bauxite, which is about...
commercial quantities?
It's about 200 million tons.
I see.
You have 350 million tons. Awasu is being mined. Kibi and Nyinahini has not been tapped at all. And there are other minor areas, minor localities, which we need to upgrade them into rare deposits. So yes, we have bauxite.
I see. So over the 100 years, how has the Geological Survey developed?
The Geological Survey, since its inception, as I've told you, is mapping the whole country. And we've mapped the Birimian areas. We have a lot of gold. That is, we have the 6 gold belts: Kibi, Winneba, Ashanti, Seshi, Bui, Bolin and Godi, Laura, belt. And these are basically the areas where we can find a lot of gold. We have in between them basins, and of course we've mapped up the area and be able to prepare a mineral map of the country. That's the position, whether the mineral, and so it's good. We have done. In actual fact, the geological map of the country is one of the most important documents. But normally, since you are not a miner, you may not find it, and it's highly technical.
We understand that you're deficient when it comes to capital and skilled labor.
Well, I think this cuts across almost every government department, and as a civil service organization, you already know the pay structure, you know the regime in which we work. Some form of independence has to be given to enable us to probably attract the needed labor, because more often than not, scientists or geologists have used the Geological Survey Department as a stepping stone, and this is not something you can prevent. And if, as I was saying earlier, if we have a semi-autonomous status, so of course, then we'll be able to put certain things in place to enable us to attract the needed labor and to retain them. It's not just employing, but you have to retain them.
We've looked at, we've had a retrospective look of the department 100 years back and now. In the future, what should we expect?
Yes, in the future, our function, we will not neglect our function. You know that we've not been able to map every area of Ghana to the appreciable scale. We have the whole Voltairean and the Kita Basin, which forms about 98,000 square kilometers of the territory of this country. Not much is known, and it is our duty to geologically map out and explore these areas in detail to enable us to know what is in our backyard. You cannot stay in a place and you don't know what is in your backyard. And
hopefully you'll be given the independence you desire.
Well, I think the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources and our ministry, they are putting things into place to be able to convince the powers that be to enable us to get the autonomy.
Thank you very much once again, John A.J. Doju.
Thank you.
John A.J. Doju is Director of Geological Survey Department here in Ghana. You're watching News Today. I'll be back shortly. Thanks for staying on. Moving right on, the government of Ghana is seeking to reposition the energy sector as the major engine for economic development and growth. The Vice President, Kwesi Emisa-Arthur, at the second Stanchat Africa Summit, said the reform of energy tariffs was critical to attracting the private sector investors to the energy sector.
The second Standard Chartered African Summit sought to provide a platform for business leaders, academia, government and the banking sector to deliberate on the implementation of practical innovations to advance economic growth. Key among the discussions was the high debt to GDP ratio and its inimical impact on economic development, the creation of new trade corridors with China, and how to make Ghana the investment hub for West Africa. The Vice President, Kwesi Emisa-Arthur, told participants government is keen at implementing policies aimed at addressing economic shortfalls in the first 3 quarters of the year.
A key requirement of Ghana's continued economic progress is the increased investment in infrastructure and the strengthening of local participation in the economy. We are committed to promoting a consistent local content agenda as a platform to ensure the emergence of a strong, vibrant, and internationally competitive domestic private sector. The development of local content will underpin our major economic policies and reforms to ensure a better balance in resource allocation in Ghana. And this is necessary for long-term sustainability and social cohesion.
He also spoke about efforts to revamp the banking sector and how to create a congenial atmosphere for small and medium-sized enterprises to flourish.
Energy and infrastructure are also important for us, that in reducing the cost of doing business. For this reason, we are continuing to focus on energy as an important aspect of the economic plan. Energy investments will not only meet Ghana's demands, but could potentially establish Ghana as the foremost energy supplier in the sub-region. The reform of energy tariffs are important in this respect, as the energy tariffs are critical, as remunerative tariffs are critical in attracting the interest of private sector investors in the sector.
The Minister of Finance, Tekpe, indicated that government will continue to reach out to local investors to encourage the mobilization of domestic resources to ensure that Ghanaian-owned businesses are put on a stronger footing to meet the requirements of a growing economy and to be globally competitive.
Ghana is embarking on significant public financial management reforms, and we are moving the basis of our budgeting from cash to accrual accounting, such that we are able, to assess better government actual and contingent liability. In this regard, we have created a contract database, which is what is enabling us to focus on the pipeline. And therefore, the calculation of our deficits should take this also into account.
Participants at the conference called on government to take a second look at its budget spending in order to satisfy all sectors of the economy critical for economic development.
About 4,000 mine workers are to be retrenched by mining companies because of high operational costs and fallen prices of gold on the world market. Ghana has 23 large companies mining gold, diamond and bauxite, as well as manganese, and over 300 registered small-scale mining groups and 90 mine support service companies. Currently, there are 9 active large-scale mining companies which together employ 22,000 workers. The local mining industry accounts for 5% of the country's GDP, and minerals make up some 37% of total exports, of which gold contributes over 90% of the total mineral exports. The country's mining and minerals development industry is focused on gold, making Ghana the second largest gold producer in Africa, producing some 80.5 tons in 2008. The country is also a major producer of bauxite, manganese, and diamond. Tony Obin is Chief Executive of the Ghana Chamber of Mines. Good afternoon, Doc.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
How did we get to this point where you'd have to retrench 4,000 workers?
Well, thanks for asking. First of all, let me correct some minor inaccuracies. I think going back to 2008 is too far. I think we have data on 2012. So I think going back as far as 2008 is a bit out of date. The industry contributes 42% of total export, not 37%.
Right.
And again, even though we are still second in terms of production, in terms of gold production, we produce over 90 tons according to 2012 figures. So I think they are much more current figures than the 2008, which is about four years old. So just to correct that. Back to the question of why and how we got to this level. Again, the figure 4,000 that we saw in the papers, in the graphic, to be specific, is not cast in stone. There's a projection of between 3,000 and 4,000 workers to be somehow retrenched. The figures are still being worked on. Most mining companies are actually actively looking at options, and these options are towards reducing the numbers that are to be retrenched. So I must say quickly that the figures are not cast in stones, but that doesn't bring much comfort, because if you take even 1,000 workers off their job, it's a problem. Now, how did we get there? Now, over the years, we've seen gold price go up quite significantly. What we haven't seen publicly is the cost of producing the commodity. I can give you a few items that have seen significant cost increases. For instance, if you look at even diesel, there was a time that fuel was about, I think petrol was about $9 per barrel. I mean, petroleum $9 per barrel. Now we're looking at over $100 per barrel. This actually translates into prices that are sold to the users. Electricity, I recall that some 6 years ago, we were buying electricity at 6 cents per kilowatt hour. And now we are buying at 17 cents per kilowatt hour. So if you look at that, there have been significant increases in the cost. And you know, costs are sticky. We say prices are often very flexible. They go and come down. But when cost comes up, they are sticky and they don't tend to come down. Now, this has made most mining companies operate at cost levels that are not sustainable. So what they are trying to do, and it's not only peculiar to Ghana, it's a global challenge to the mining industry, particularly to the gold sector, is to really review their operations and to see how they can be more efficient than they're doing, how they can be more effective, how they can use less to get more. And that's exactly where we are. I mean, of course, I was talking about cost, and we've always been looking at taxes as well. Taxes are not the, be it and end it all. Taxes have added to cost, but there are other costs that have also sort of gone up and made the most of our activities very costly.
BBN Gold. Dr. Albin, this morning, some workers at a BBN Gold mine who suspected that, they were going to be laid off after they had signed a memorandum of understanding with their management over, giving them some $15 million as compensation for all these 700 workers, but now are receiving 6,000 Ghana cedis. What sort of packages are you preparing for these workers who will be affected?
Well, the chamber doesn't talk about individual mining companies. We have a global view of things, and we talk about the industry more or less. Now, if and there's a labor regulation. We have the labor law, which actually clearly lays out how employees are severed, how they are made redundant, and all that. And the industry has kept so closely to that. We have actually managed our labor according to the laws of this country. And I know that the common practice in the industry is that people are paid, I think, 25% of their annual salaries times the number of years worked.
And the chamber is making sure that these mining companies adhere to this.
Yeah, but the point is that you also negotiate. It is not the labor law actually allows for that thing to be negotiated. So you negotiate. What I understand in the case of the BBN situation, I think Noble Gold, is that the company says, yes, we are going to pay the amount you're talking about, the amount that has been agreed. But for now, immediately, we want to negotiate the payment terms. My understanding is not that they do not want to pay the amount enshrined in law, but that they were going to negotiate with the staff, with labor, the payment terms. So that's my understanding, actually. I will be disappointed if Noble Gold would say, no, we are not going to pay what is required according to law. I don't think they would do that.
I see. But is there a way out of this predicament, instead of retrenching workers? Is there something we could do?
Yeah, we are very worried about it. We are the chamber, and I think even the individual mining companies, they are doing this with serious pains. It's not something that any company would want to come to. And I know that government is not happy with this. So the good thing is that we are talking with government. We've had a discussion with our sector minister, who is also very worried about the trend of things. So we have proposed to government for a roundtable conference where we can sit down and have a dispassionate discussions, bereft of these emotions and statements that are made against the industry, which are often not founded anyway. So I think that's the way to go. Just sit down, look at the issues very carefully, where the areas that we can manage to ensure that the numbers that have to go, and that level of unemployment will have to reduce, that government will also have access to the revenue that is due by government. You know, because if we don't do that, then we'll just be talking across, each other.
Many thanks, Dr. Orban, for your time. Dr. Tony Orban is Chief Executive of the Ghana Chamber of Mines. Now, the U.S. government has begun a partial shutdown after the two houses of Congress failed to agree a budget. The Republican-led House of Representatives insisted on delaying President Obama's health care reform, dubbed Obamacare, as a condition for passing a bill. That's it for the business segment. Rashida Babakadiri brings us some sports news after this.
A very good afternoon to you, and thanks for staying tuned to the sports segment on Midday Brief. Now, the biggest story for today is that Black Stars head coach Kwesi Appiah has named a 25-man squad, provisional squad, ahead of the two-legged qualifier with Egypt. And this qualifier, must say, would qualify the winner of the two legs to the 2014 World Cup in Brazil. Now, the 25-man squad sees veteran goalkeeper Richard Kingston and midfielder Suliali Muntari making returns to the squad. So here is a full list of the 25-man squad that has been named. For goalkeepers, we have Fatau Udauda, who currently plays for Orlando Pirates in South Africa. Adam Kwarase, he plays for Strøm Godset in Norway. Richard Kingston plays for Dr. Katokopias in Cyprus. Defenders, we have Samuel Inkum. And Samuel Inkum is based in Ukraine with Dnipro. We have Daniel Opari, who plays for Standard Liège. David Addo plays for Victoria Guimarães in Portugal. Baba Abdurrahman plays for Greuther Fürth in Germany. John Boy plays for Stade Rennes in France. Jerry Akamenko plays for Eskişehirspor in Turkey. We have Rashid Sumaila for Mamelodi Sundowns, South Africa. Mohamed Awal also plays for Maritzburg in South Africa. Midfielders, we have Michael Essien, who plays for Chelsea. Emmanuel Frimpong plays for Arsenal in England. Suliali Muntari plays for AC Milan in Italy. Kojo Asamoah plays for Juventus in Italy. Emmanuel Ajimanbedu is also based in Italy with Udinese. And then we have Kevin Prince Boateng, who plays for Schalke 04 in Germany. Still with the midfielders, Albert Aduma plays for Middlesbrough in England. Mubarak Kwakaso is based in Russia with Rubin Kazan. Then we have Christian Achu, he plays for Vitesse Arnhem in Holland. And then Andre Dede Ayew for Marseille in France. Strikers are made up of Asamoah Gyan. He plays for Al Ain, UAE. Abdul Majid Waris plays for Spartak Moscow in Russia. Jordan Ayew plays for Marseille in France, and Mahatma Otu, he plays for Sogndal in Norway. So these are the 25 players who make up Coach Kwesi Appiah's squad for the upcoming two-legged qualifier for the 2014 Brazil World Cup. Let's see how it goes, how it turns up. Ghana will host the first leg in Kumasi on October 15, and then on November 19, the return leg will be played in Egypt. That's in Cairo. So that's the latest coming from the stables of the senior national team, the Black Stars. Now let's talk about a player who won the MVP or the Most Valuable Player award in the Ghana Premier League some 2 seasons ago, and I'm talking about Daniel Ni Ajay. He has actually joined the TP Mazembe on a 5-year deal. Now he is part of his team's squad that is currently in Accra at the Lizzie Sports Complex, taking on some training tour ahead of their CAF Confederations Cup encounter with Stade Malien. Now, our cameras visited them at the Lizzie Sports Complex over the week, and we've been speaking to Daniel Ni Ajay.
Yes, I've settled well in Congo because when we went there, they received us as one family, and then they told us to be free. Anything we want, they will give it to us. And then the supporters there love us, as Kotoko love their players. So there is like being here in Kumasi, playing for Kumasi Asante Kotoko. The same treatment we have there. The supporters are very caring and loving. So I've settled there well. I'm worried a little, but not much, because I've not get the playing time that I can get, that I will get a call. But I'm still working on it, and then I hope God will make a way, and then I'll get back to the national team. So I'm still working hard. I know it's not easy. You can't get it all well all the time. So I'm not disappointed. I'm not worried, but I'm still working to get the chance to play, and then maybe I'll get the chance to be called back into the national team.
Go over to England, to Europe, I beg your pardon, and see what's going to be happening in the UEFA Champions League for tonight. Coming up on your screen shortly are the fixtures. And of course, FC Basel are taking on Schalke 04, and we're expecting Ghana's Kevin Prince Boateng to play a major role for Schalke, especially as he's been named in the provisional 25-man squad. They'll be getting ready to face Egypt in the coming weeks. Stuart Bucharesti are going to be hosting struggling Chelsea. Remember that Chelsea have had a very torrid time in the EPL, not finding the winning streak that they would want yet under coach Jose Mourinho. But let's see what they can do. Remember that they are also coming on the back of glory from the Europa League. They won the last edition, and let's see how it goes. Arsenal, will they maintain their 100% winning streak in the UEFA Champions League and also continue their fine form in the EPL? They host Napoli at the Emirates Stadium. Borussia Dortmund will be at home to Marseille. And in Marseille, we are expecting Andre and Jordan Ayew to also start there and see how far they can help Ghana beat Egypt over 2 legs. Zenit St. Petersburg are at home to Austria Vienna. FC Porto, they host Atletico Madrid. Ajax Amsterdam will take on struggling AC Milan. And for AC Milan, we'll be expecting to see Silali Muntari doing action. And of course, to keep his form for the Black Stars of Ghana. Then in the last fixture, we have Celtic and Barcelona. Barcelona are going away to Celtic. And let's see how that goes. And let's see how Barcelona would also manage to win away in Scotland without Lionel Messi, who is injured and will be out for 3 weeks. So that's what's coming up in the UEFA Champions League. Tomorrow, we'll be here on the AM show with the AM Sports to bring you all the updates of the UEFA Champions League matches and, of course, more on the senior national team, the Black Stars, where 25 players have been named. Quickly, let me take you through the 25-man squad again. For goalkeepers, Fatah Odada, Adam Kwarasei, and Richard Kingston. Defenders, we have Samuel Inkum, Daniel Opari, David Ade, Baba Abdurrahman, Jerry Akamenko, John Boy, Rashid Sumaila, and Mohamed Awal. Midfielders, we have Michael Essien, Emmanuel Frimpong, Sule Muntari, Kojo Asamoah, Emmanuel Ajiman Bedu. We also have Kevin Prince Boateng, Albert Aduma, Mubarak Wakaso, Andre Ayew, Christian Achu, who are making up the midfield. Then strikers, we would have Asamoah Gyan, Abdul Majid Waris, Jordan Ayew, and of course, Mahatma Osu. There will be updates in our subsequent bulletins. My name is Rashida Baba Kadiri. Good afternoon.
Let's do some foreign news now. A report has warned illegal drugs are now cheaper and purer globally than at any time over the last 20 years. The International Center for Science in Drug Policy said its report suggested that war on drugs had failed. The report, published in the British medical journal Open, looked at data from the 7 international government-funded drug surveillance systems. Its researchers said it was time to consider drug use a public health issue rather than a criminal justice issue. The 7 drug surveillance systems the study looked at had at least 10 years of information on the price and purity of cannabis, cocaine, and opiates, including heroin. The report said street prices of drugs had fallen in real terms between 1990 and 2010, while their purity and potency had increased. That's it for that segment on a rather worrying note. Well, let's do some showbiz news now. And Miss World Africa and second runner-up at this year's Miss World event, Na Okaile Shuta, has arrived in the country. She touched down at the Kotoka International Airport to a huge reception at the VIP lounge. She was met on arrival by the Minister of Tourism, Culture and Creative Arts, Elizabeth Ofosu-Ejare, her family and some friends from the medical school, as well as officials of Exclusive Events Ghana, organizers of the Miss Ghana pageant.
In third place, hậu hai của chúng ta, Ghana. Hoa hậu Ghana.
Na Okaile Shooter, who arrived in the country last night to a rousing welcome, made history when she became the first Ghanaian to place third at the Miss World pageant, and she was the only African who made it to the finals. She expressed her excitement to the media on arrival.
It's been so great. I'm excited. When they mentioned my name on stage, if you watch the clip, you realize that I was crying because it's for me, it's like breaking a boundary, you know, and it's been a humbling experience for me. And I'm so happy. The support I'm getting on Facebook, overnight, I got over 1,000 messages from Ghanaians, and it's been great. Oh, there's a lot to do. There's a lot. And once it's on the international stage, there's no limit to it.
Now, were you surprised by this feat?
I was. Seriously, I was. And being the only African in top 20 and all that, it was a huge shock to me. Yeah.
She was met on arrival by the Minister of Tourism, Culture and Creative Arts, Elizabeth Ofoswejari, Miss Ghana 2013, Guspina Baefi, her family and some friends from the medical school, as well as officials of Exclusive Events Ghana, organizers of the Miss Ghana Beauty Pageant. Her overexcited mother and other family members could simply not hold back their joy.
I'm so excited. That is my daughter. I'm the mother's next sister. So Karaza is my daughter, and she's what do I call it? I'm the auntie. That God has done this for us. I asked God. When I saw her, I was so shocked. I told my mother that I couldn't imagine I was giving birth to such a beautiful baby. From birth, she was different. She was so beautiful. At times, I used to carry her the whole night. My mother would tell me, put her down, let her rest. I said, no, this is a special gift from God to me. She has been an exceptional child, and I'm so proud of her.
Na's success at the 2013 Miss World pageant has become so much inspiring. Her younger sister says she is going to work hard to take after her.
Yeah, I also want to become like Miss Ghana like her soon. I'm going to work hard in school and do my best. Yeah, I also will trim down.
Guspina Baefi, Miss Ghana 2013, says she will build on Na's feet to bring the Miss World crown to Ghana next year.
It means a lot to me. With her being third position, I know she's paved the way for me, so I'm going to work extra harder and bring the crown home next year.
Na Okaile Shooter was crowned Miss World Africa and second runner-up at the 2013 Miss World Beauty Pageant, which was held last Saturday in Indonesia. France placed second, whilst Philippines won the coveted crown.
That's it for the segment, and a reminder of our headlines. Taxi drivers protest joint action by some MMDAs and the MTTD for non-affiliation with lorry stations, though the AMA denies knowledge of this exercise. Security beefed up in Geological, a town in the Dunkwa and Ofen district of the Central region, following bloody clashes between two royal families, leaving one person dead. On the international front, the U.S. government has begun a partial shutdown after the two houses of Congress failed to agree on a budget. And my name is Kimini Nyamani Amano. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.